Hello patrons, welcome to this video. Here we are. Right, this is going to be the first proper video where I play some records and I talk about them. This is the new thing that I am now doing here and I'm very excited about it. All week I have been looking forward to doing this video for the patrons more than the videos that I do for the main site. You know, this is really exciting because, you know, there's nothing better than sitting down with your mates and playing some records. So I thought, what am I going to do first? Now I did this last week, but I just pulled out some random albums and just went mad. But each week I want to have a theme. So I thought, why is my YouTube there? My YouTube exists because, you know, a couple of years ago I did a top 10 on my favourite Mahavishnu. No, I didn't. I did a ranking video of my favourite Mahavishnu Orchestra albums. And I thought it's only right I go back to the man himself, John McLAUGHLIN, and have a look at some of his rarer recordings. You know, so I'm sure there's some Mahavishnu and John McLAUGHLIN fans here, but hopefully I'm going to be able to play some stuff you haven't heard, you know, from my collection. So let's start with this album. So I'll actually put the albums down here. So the first album I want to discuss is this double album that came out in the early 70s. It's a compilation of early recordings by the great Graham Bond. It features the lineup of Graham Bond, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, Dick Hextall Smith. There's also some tracks with John Heisman on drums, and it's got a very on John McLAUGHLin. Now the recordings I'm going to delve into, on here there's actually 3 tracks with John on. There's a track called, where are we? I think it's alright, they've got a really weird way of doing the, they've got this really strange diagram where they've got photos of the people in the band and then you sort of have to follow the thread. So there's a track called Can't Stand It, which is quite a commercial recording from 1966. John's on there, there's not much guitar playing on there, but there's 2 much earlier recordings from 1963 of John playing with the Graham Bond organisation. And I'm going to go for the track Doxy because there's quite an extensive guitar solo on there. So what you're about to hear is John McLAUGHLin right at the beginning of his career playing with the Graham Bond organisation. Right. Doxy is a tune by Sonny Rollins. So what we have here are basically musicians that are coming out of jazz and blues, playing in the sort of burgeoning pop scene in London in the early 60s. These musicians are bringing those jazz and blues influences in, and those influences coming into that pop realm is going to create rock music. Okay, so when we look at jazz fusion, when does jazz fusion begin? Well, actually what you're hearing here are jazz musicians playing jazz but in a rock scene. What this will sound like is jazz, but it's being played by Ginger Baker, Jack Bruce, Graham Bond, John McLAUGHLin. The tone and the sound is different to jazz. It's harder. The guitars, John's pretty much playing, you know, sort of Tal Farlow-esque jazz guitar with a blues edge, but the tone's harder. But this is straight jazz. But here is the beginning of rock music. It's the beginning of jazz. This is such an important recording I'm about to play. And also, John McLAUGHLin's born in 1942. This is recorded in 1963. This is a 21-year-old John McLAUGHLin. So this is about as early as we can get back to hear his style back then. Right, so I'm going to put the track on. It's quite a long track. I'll probably play up to the guitar solo and then I will cut the track off and have a chat about it. Straight hard bop, basically. Graham Bond not on organ, but on saxophone. John's comping on this. Very choppy. More choppy than you'd expect from a jazz guitarist. And every now and then, even back then, we hear one of those signature John chords. But this is straight jazz. Jack Bruce on double bass. This is recorded live at Kluk's Kleek in June 1963. This is mad. This is basically Cream with John McLAUGHLIN on guitar, and listen to it. 1963, 2 years later they're going to be doing Sunshine of Your Love with Eric Clapton. Graham Bond, an incredible musician, incredible organ player, incredible saxophone player, who sadly died, I think, in 1974. I think he threw himself under a train. Graham Bond was into a lot of esoteric things. You know, he believed himself to be the illegitimate son of Aleister Crowley, and was responsible for getting John into sort of spiritualism, Eastern philosophy, or whatever you want to call it. Playing that is surprisingly free as well for the time. The way Graham Bond is playing there's a very strong free jazz influence, which is only just happening at that time. Here comes John. Proper post bebop phrasing there from John. McLAUGHLin lick there, but mostly it's like bebop phrasing. And bluesy as well. go to Jack Bruce solo. It's a long track, I will cut it off there. So for me, really interesting to hear John in 1963. He's a guitarist who really has a really strong understanding of the blues and a really strong understanding of sort of a post-bebop Charlie Christian and Wes Montgomery. I can hear elements of Wes Montgomery in there. He's a great jazz guitarist. What he's going to become known for, all that stuff's yet to happen. All right. Now, if we fast forward a few years to this album, so this is Things We Like by Jack Bruce. This was recorded, I think, 1968, August 1968. It features Dick Hextall Smith, who's on that album as well, on saxophones. In fact, when I say saxophones, he's playing 2 saxophones at once, and John Heisman on drums. Now, this album is quite an abstract album, and it veers more towards free jazz than what we've just heard. You can tell free jazz has become really important. I might just delve in, if you will let me. I'm going to delve into the opening track on side 2, which is called, it's called, what the hell is it? I have to read it off the track, I can't remember. It's called, oh yeah, that's what it is, Blues. And we'll try and just drop into the McLAUGHLIN solo. Yeah, I think I'll just play it for the beginning. I remember the solo's right at the start now. I'm going to play a couple of tracks off here. Much more distorted tone from John here in 68. This is jazz, it's post-bebop-y, it's almost like Ornette Coleman-y in a way. But this is rock music. Heavy. Now swinging. 6/8 jazz swing. Distorted tone. The harmonic vocabulary has changed. You can hear the influence of Coltrane, free jazz. Jazz. Abstract noises, you know, they're not trying to resolve the phrases. Tiny smidgen of a John McLAUGHLin super speed there. So an interesting album. The musicians who are the architects of rock music, Jack Bruce, Graham Bond, Ginger Baker, coming out of jazz, and the fact that they're experimenting so closely with free jazz for me is really interesting. I think free jazz enabled the fusion of rock with jazz. I think you needed that. You needed that sort of the noise and the visceralness, you know, to be able to stop worrying about the changes to integrate rock and jazz. Now, the next album I'm going to put on is, I've lost it, is this album by Wayne Shorter. Now this video I'm going to keep to around about 20 minutes, so I'm going to be doing this in sections, so it'll be in different parts. So you can dip in and dip out, because if not, we're going to end up with an hour and a half long video, and it's going to be hard to get through. So this will be the last one I'm going to play for this section, and then we'll move on to another video. So this last one for this episode is going to be off this album by Wayne Shorter called Supernova. It came out in 1969. So in 69, John McLAUGHLin goes on with the invitation of Tony Williams. He goes to America. He arrives in New York, joins the Tony Williams Lifetime. He plays on In a Silent Way. That sort of makes his name. He then plays on Bitches Brew, all in 1969. He plays on a number of other albums at this point, and this is the forgotten one for me. This album, Wayne Shorter, Walter Booker on classical guitar, not on this one. Miroslav Vitous on bass, Jack DeJohnette at drums, Chick Corea is also on here on drums, Ayoto Morio's on here. This is an early example of the John McLAUGHLin Weather Report link. The other one is Miroslav Vitous, Mountain in the Clouds, which I do have, and I was going to pull that out in this incredible version of Freedom Jazz Dance. And I think that one's a little bit more known than this. But this album's really strange, because basically we have Wayne Shorter at his most free. Right, this is a pretty out there free album. Very Ornette Coleman, very free, very post Coltrane. And he has John McLAUGHLin and Sonny Sharrock, the great free jazz guitarist, there pitting against each other. I didn't know what to play on here. There's so much different stuff. I think I'm just going to play the first track, which is called Supernova. It is one of the most out there recordings on here, but it features that sort of incendiary Sharrock-McLAUGHLin duo within the band. Oh, well, I'm not getting my words out here. Shall we have a listen? This is basically the only time we're ever going to hear this. So they're all playing that melody, but all at different times. Hard to disentangle Sonny Sharrock from John McLAUGHLin. Remember, Sonny Sharrock also appears on Jack Johnson as well at this time. Sonny Sharrock is really abstract. It's pretty much just slides, sounds, scratches. McLAUGHLin's got a little bit more tonality in the sound. Wayne Shorter at his most free. now enters here. Abstract, very fast, free. We can start to hear John's technique here coming through the speed, which has been answered by Sonny Shark's just squonks and sounds. Big interval jumps. Hear the influence of Eric Dolphy there. That's probably John McLAUGHLIN at his most free, that moment. Right, we're back to the thing now. So, yeah. Let's move on. So what is important here is the importance of free jazz to John McLAUGHLIN's formative years. We hear someone who's come up through a sort of post-bebop, post-blues, and then they've embraced free jazz. They've gone to America and the fusion's about to happen. I'm going to finish up here. I don't want to have these great long videos. I want you to be able to take a little bite size. I'll tell you the real reason is because if I stop now, I can just upload the video. If I don't, then this camera chops it into different sections and I've got to edit it all together and it really slows the process down, and I don't want to do that with Patreon. I want to be able to stick a ton of stuff up for you. So I'm going to stop there. On the next video we'll be carrying on from 1970, going through these rare John McLAUGHLIN recordings. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.